Are you sick and tired of having unupgraded mods? Have you had enough of being poor? Well, this video is just the right one for you. With this method you will easily be making 3 to 4k Endo per minute. Getting everything ready is not the easiest thing in the world, but once you get the correct setups, the rest is very simple. Steelpath Arena strategies have been cooking and improving for years thanks to our fellow friends from the Warframe Endo server. Special thanks to Mebius for the written guide and of course everyone else who contributed. Let's begin, shall we? First things first, a mod drop booster is required to make this farm as good as possible. And before you tell me, well, that's not very realistic, tell that to these guys, they do like 50 runs per day. The link to the Discord is in description, please read the rules carefully on how the server works before you start. Thanks. So our team composition consists of 1 Khora, 1 Nidus and 2 Nekros. Let's take a look at Nekros first, this will be our DPS frame. We don't really care about any stats apart from range, since we are only really using 2 abilities. So Overextended and Cunning Drift for said range. This spoil is here so we never run out of resources. Natural Talent, Energy Nexus and Greedy Pool all go hand in hand and will allow us to cast Pool, which is max subzoom frequently, wasting the least amount of time possible. Power Donation is the best option here since we really don't need any strength on this build. As a matter of fact, everyone but Khora will be running Power Donation. Any Gladiator mod can be used here, so pick whatever you like. We only have it for the extra crit chance. Arcane Fury for more melee damage and Arcane Strike for more attack speed. These are just the 2 best arcanes to run if you're playing a melee-oriented build. You could play with the build a bit and add more Gladiator mods, but I honestly haven't felt like it was needed. And now we have 2 weird mods, Primed Direction and Primed Flow. Well, if you take a look here with Primed Flow, we have just above 500 energy, giving us a massive damage boost from our 5 purple melee crit damage shards. Again, this is not 100% necessary, but I am simply giving you the best possible build. Well, I guess you could put 5 Tau shards, but we ain't gonna be doing that, I'm sorry. And we have Melee Retaliation for even more damage, hence why we use Primed Redirection. The melee our fellow Nekros uses is Guandao Prime. You want as much attack speed as possible. Primed Reach for more range. Of course we have a Bane, but don't worry, you never have to change it, it's always gonna be Grenier. Blood Rush is a must-have combo based mod, and lastly we have Radiation. Yes, precisely, Radiation has the highest raw damage against heavily armored Grenier, and in order to actually get extra bodies for Nekros to desecrate, you need to kill the enemies with raw damage. That's why we have no Weeping Woods or any kind of status boost whatsoever, and that's also why we want this much attack speed. Now if you actually want to read all of this, go right ahead, but the main point is that your weapon must have slash higher than 50% of your IPS, for you to get the most loot possible, and as you can see, Guandao fits this criteria. If you don't have or don't want to use purple shards, the build slightly changes. Exchange Gladiator Vice and Quickening with Gladiator Might and Organ Shatter. Another weapon worth mentioning is the Prisma Skana Incarnon. This is a great alternative which might be even slightly better than the Guandao, but the investment for getting and building this is very high, so I did not use it as a primary example. You also have to use it stanceless, which will cost significantly more Forma. Meanwhile, the Guandao only takes 1 Forma. For the primary, we have Aphentis. One of the Nekros players should use the Alt Fire at least once to give a bit more attack speed. The build is completely irrelevant, just put on some attack speed mods if you wish, and don't forget Dexterity, which will help you keep combo easier. Secondary really doesn't matter, just have Dexterity and Amalgam Barrel Diffusion on for some more mobility. The school of choice is Naramon. We have Power Strike, which will make dropping combo practically impossible, and Opening Slam, which will be very useful at the start of rounds. The alternative option is Madurai. If you want to use Voice Strike instead of the Opening Slam, this will once again help you at the early stage of the rounds, but I just prefer Naramon. For the second build for today we have Khora. We go for high duration and high strength. Low efficiency because we have the tools to work around it. And the range should be exactly 64%. The most important mods here are Pilfering Strangledome, which will contribute to the extra loot, and Equilibrium, which will be first step towards sustaining this build. Steel Charge is here to give our DPS players more damage, and Coaction Drift for pretty much the same thing. The subzoom we go on Khora is Warcry. We use it primarily for the attack speed buff, which will greatly increase our team's damage potential. Lastly, we have Molt Efficiency, increasing our duration above 300%. Molt Vigor for the sole purpose of making Warcry stronger. Since we don't need to do damage on Khora, the melee we have is Praedos, again purely for the beginnings of the rounds. Now it does get a little bit complicated. We want to have just enough energy to cast Strangledome, Warcry and put our cat to stop moving. We need just a bit over 300. 2 blue energy shards fix this issue. But now another issue. How to fill that energy quickly in arena where you start with 0 energy. We have a Tau Forged yellow shard for effectiveness on health orbs. With these shards we will fill our energy to max with just 1 health pickup, which can be found at the start of the round. In case you don't want to use shards, we have an alternative, using Glaxion and Mending Shot. But there is a big downside to this. The host ping matters immensely. If the ping is bad, it will take a long time for the energy to get transferred and could potentially harm or slow down the run. That's why I prefer just using the shards and fetch method. As for Venari, the only important mod is fetch. Rest is up to you, but don't put anything that will make Venari attack. The school for Khora is Vazarin. The only relevant thing here is Protective Sling. You can literally have nothing else unlocked and it won't make a difference. For the Operator Arcanes, we got Magus Cloud. This will increase the range of our Protective Sling. Rank 2 and 3 should work fine as well, but below that I'm not so sure. Other arcanes is optional. Magus Savior is basically quality of life in case our operator finds a way to get clobbered. And finally, we have Nidus. Very straightforward build. The most important thing is to have minimum duration and maximum range and efficiency. Well, almost maximum efficiency. And strength doesn't really matter. Energy Nexus for extra energy and Greedy Pool for the pickups, same like Nekros. Enemy Sense is here to keep track of enemies in case they get stuck. You will need to learn how to fix bad spawns, but I will not be going into too much detail here. There is also a myth that it helps with AI pathing. Is it true? I don't know. Alternative option here is Larva Burst instead of Transient Fortitude. The outcome is very similar, but this can be used if you are doing too much damage and enemies don't have time to drop in the dome before getting nuked. This one is completely up to you. Try both and pick which one you like more. Just remember that for Larva Burst you need to press Larva twice per pull. The arcanes you can honestly leave as empty. They are only here in case Khora messes up, so if you trust your Khora player, you don't need to put anything here. Alternatively, you can run Arcane Warmth in case you get a 1 in a blue moon cold proc, or Arcane Steadfast so you can cope yourself into thinking that you made the build better even though you had infinite energy already. For Archon shards we have 2 cast speed yellow shards. These help immensely and I really recommend them. Alternative option is running Natural Talent. For the secondary and melee, we have the same deal like with Khora, just using them for utility. But the Glaxion Vandal will be used on the enemies this time. Go with Viral, Cold and Tox 60/60 mods, Rifle Aptitude for more status chance, and Vial Acceleration for more fire rate. You can exchange these mods for their prime versions of course, but it really doesn't make much difference. If you want to be extra nerd, you can go for Fractalized Reset for extra reload speed. If you are using Natural Talent instead of Energy Nexus, you can also use Mending Shot here and grab the Energy Orb at the start for smoother runs. For the school of choice we have Xenoric. We will use it for extra free ability cast with Inner Might, extra energy with Energy Pools, and huge energy regen with Wellspring. Well, the boring part is all done, which is the theory. Let me teach you how to play each of the roles. Starting off with Khora. Bullet jump and slam this pod here where the Energy Orb is. Quickly go to the corner of the door, drop your Strangledome and use Warcry, then cycle your Venari to heal and look at the ground so she would target you. If you're too slow, you might need to do 1 Protective Sling just to be sure that your teammates are safe. After you have dropped everything, just chill in Operator and spam Void Sling for Protective Sling every 5 seconds from about this position here. If your team is good, you will not need to reapply anything and the round will be over before your Strangledome disappears. But in case it is a bit slower run, reuse your buffs and all should be good still. Remember that fetch is getting the Endo for you, so remember to switch back to your frame at least once before the run is over. Nidus, use your Wellspring to start with energy regen. Jump straight to the position here, shoot your Glaxion while spamming your second ability right above Khora Strangledome. Cast Pull every once in a while if you are running out of energy to make sure you get the health orbs which will be transferred to energy with Equilibrium. Remember that even when the run is over, it's not really over and you can squeeze a bit more Endo since there usually will be more enemies remaining. Again, the most unsafe here is Nidus since you don't have any shields and won't be getting any stacks, so if you die, it's probably Khora's fault. And finally, Nekros. Jump in and cast Desecrate midair. If you are playing Naramon, switch to Operator, Void Sling to the ceiling and slam the floor. This will activate your opening slam. Now at the beginning of the round, 1 Nekros should stay here near the pipe and clear any possible stuck enemies. After that, just slowly move towards this position while still attacking. If you are not a pipe Nekros, you can throw your Aphentis at the group once at the start, right after using your Desecrate. Remember to be in crouch the whole time, since it will prevent you from moving. This is the way to get the most controlled DPS. Try to move as little as possible so you don't mess up the spawns. If your build is correct, the enemies will be liquefied the moment you see them being pulled in. Nidus should always be the host, and unfortunately, if your PC is not the greatest, the runs will be worse than they should be. But there is one thing you can do, at least, about it. If you are struggling with FPS drops, make sure that you and your teammates are in full black. It actually helps, I promise. Just create a new tab with full black. That way it's zero effort to change. Also make sure that particle quality is set to 0 as well. One last thing, make sure your group is on invite only. This makes re-inviting and rejoining easier, while also reducing the timer to 5 seconds instead of 10 seconds whenever you start the mission. That will be all for today. I wish you guys a great time farming Endo, which can be turned into Platinum as well if you want to, by the way. Just upgrade any meta mode and sell it. Boom, value. I will catch you all in the next one.